So episode 66 was touted to be this climactic, amazing episode featuring Vegetto fighting in his Super Saiyan Blue form against merged, mutated Zamasu, whatever you may call it. And well, it was a beautifully executed episode in its visuals, etc. But I don't know what to think about it. It wasn't the best episode in terms of plot, but it wasn't bad as well in terms of plot as well. It's very weird because a lot of things happen and it really doesn't help that my notes got deleted. However, I'm just going to shoot from the hip and say how it is. So we started off with Goku struggling with Zamasu. So I want to quickly tell you an outline of what actually happened in the episode. So he starts off with Goku struggling with Zamasu's little ki blast, the little ki struggle, and Goku eventually overwhelms the little ki blast and wins the battle of the struggle between Zamasu's ki ball and his Kamehameha, which was his 100% full power Kamehameha, which grazes him and shows us the first signs of this two-faced version, you know, this purple slime version of Zamasu, as I call him, mutated Zamasu. But the thing is, how is he keeping on par? Is he that much stronger than Trunks? Is he that much stronger than Vegeta? Well, I'm sure it's just for story's sake, for the sake of grazing Zamasu. And also, this is how Zamasu's light ring, his ring of light, is broken. We saw the Kaioken. I made a video with Real to Real Productions talking about, will we see Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken return in Dragon Ball Super? And yeah, we did. We actually did, and I don't know. I'm struggling here. I'm really struggling because I enjoyed it. The thing is, a lot of things happen in this episode, and you start to think, when you start thinking a little bit more deeper, you're like, do you think that they intended to keep this in the final cut? Was this the plan from the beginning? Was this part of the outline that Toriyama gave? And I'll talk about that later on. Well, Goku goes Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken. He breaks through Zamasu's ring. And it seemed that, okay, Zamasu's been overwhelmed. First things first, for Zamasu to be overwhelmed like that, or to be challenged by Goku in that state already, take that into consideration when you see Vegetto, Super Saiyan Blue, fight merge Zamasu. And yes, Vegetto does arrive a little bit later. Afterwards, Zamasu bursts into rage, and this is the one thing I have to give credit for. And once whoever's going to be doing the voices for Zamasu as well as Black, as well as the merged Zamasu is the main one. The little hesitation, the little oscillation in his voice as he's talking, the disgust level is increasing, the anger, the rage, the absolute frustration in his voice is increasing. Props to the actor who voiced Zamasu. Absolutely superb, excellent. I don't know how they're gonna top it, and this is one of the questions you're gonna have to ask yourself. Will the dub live up to the excellent voice work for the actor who voiced Zamasu? And it seems that Goku destroying this ring of light in Zamasu's backhand, as well as grazing him, which makes the whole purple slime bit emerge, causes Vegeta to say, looks like you can't regenerate as effectively anymore. And once again, they talk about that later on, which I'll move on to. And then you see this purple side, this proper Two-Face-esque side of Zamasu emerging, and this is when, as I said earlier, the absolute insanity of Zamasu is really coming into play. And as Zamasu, what it looks like, he's coming to terms with this newfound berserk nature of himself. Goku says, hey Vegeta, let's fuse. And this point here, I want to give props to the added comedy, which was not overly done, and was perfectly utilized. It really fitted the narrative and it just slotted in. It didn't feel out of place in a very serious, very combat orientated episode, which once again had absolutely amazing choreography, especially between minutes 14 to 16, but more on that later. They fuse, but before that, Vegeta's like, no, this is the comedy side, no, I don't want to fuse, no, blah 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 blah. You see Trunks' amazement that, well, what's going on here? You see Supreme Kai, you see Gowasu, both Supreme Kais of Universe 7 as well as Universe 10. They're not confused, but they're like, oh, this might work. And we see a little retcon here because it was never mentioned before, talking about how if a non-Kaioshin fuse with the Potara earrings, they only have 1 hour, which is stupid. And this is the first stupid point I'm gonna point out in this episode. Well, second, how did Goku manage to keep up with Zamasu? It was stupid, and this is the thing that makes me struggle. The stupidity is laced with pure brilliance. When they fuse, you see Vegetto coming, and the thing with Vegetto is he's absolutely no nonsense due to the fact that it's, you know, a fusion between Goku and Vegeta, so the mindset of Vegeta is very, very prevalent. And and just the way fusion Zamasu, merged Zamasu, whatever you mutated Zamasu, he's like, what, Ningen, blah 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 blah. The rhetoric of, oh, how dare you say this to a god, how dare you say this to an immortal being, which we found out he actually wasn't as immortal as he thought. And another stupid point, I'll move on to that in a bit, but Vegito goes Super Saiyan Blue, so this is the first time we see him go all out. In the beginning, he's absolutely dominating fusion, merge, mutated Zamasu, and we see, it seems like the whole anger or the lack of regeneration or the lack of immortality, this purple slime is making him increase in size, just like how we saw Buff Boo in the Majin Buu arc. This is very, very reminiscent of the Majin Buu arc. It's unreal of the final fights. Of course it is, because we saw Vegito, he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and slowly but surely he's becoming a giant version of himself, a giant mutated Zamasu. Stupid point right here, how is Vegito not wiping the floor with him? If Goku was able to keep up with him, if Vegeta as well as Trunks was able to keep up and hold back Zamasu's ki blast, how the hell isn't Vegito able to completely erase him in the blink of an eye, especially Super Saiyan Blue? I don't care about the multipliers, I don't care about the logistics of it, but from what we saw and how, if we were to extrapolate Goku's performance to Vegeto's performance, Vegito should be performing much better. But this doesn't excuse it doesn't excuse the fact that it's stupid. But the thing is, this stupidity is laced with one of the most brilliant scenes in terms of choreography, fight scenes, visuals, facial expressions. We see voice acting firstly on Nozawa and Horikawa's part, in the way they synced up and also displaying the emotion. But once again, I must emphasize that Zamasu's voice acting is just crazy, and that's the only way to explain it. It gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and that's not me bashing it. It's just getting better. And they're fighting, and how is he struggling? I don't know. You tell me. See, I am lost for words. This is me shooting from the hip. My notes are gone. I don't know why this stupid little S7 Edge took away my notes. But when they're fighting, and the way Zamasu pulls out his key sword, and then this is one of the marquee moments, we saw the Spirit Sword. But before the Spirit Sword, we saw the final Kamehameha. See, they are really, they're also naming their moves similar to Dragon Ball GT. So there is that. This is like maybe a homage for them surpassing the episode count of GT. But we saw the Spirit Sword, and it pierced through Zamasu's not heart, but just his sternum, the middle of his sternum, and then you see, and this is when Vegito says, "You're not immortal anymore." You do know that, right? You see Zamasu's Keyblade against Vegito's Spirit Sword. The visual right there was excellent. But here's one thing which I really didn't like. It seemed like the animation or the picture just completely became still. Even the little key or the aura around the swords, or the little tiny movements, even the little movements on the cheeks when they're speaking, was non-existent. So it looked like a still frame of them just talking, and you're like, this looks very lazy. It seems like they're trying to compensate for the amazing animation by having essentially what looks like a very still image. It looks like, when you just pause and then they just voice over this still image. That's exactly what it looked like to me. So I found that a poor execution of what they could have done in those few minutes, because they did speak for quite a while. And then Vegito is on the upper hand once again. As expected, as should be expected, he's absolutely battering him, and then they unfuse. Why the hell do they unfuse? Well, we don't get an explanation. I don't know why. they unfuse. They don't explain to us why they even unfused. Another stupid point was, during the dialogue exchange between Vegito and mutated Zamasu, he was talking about, hey, you're not immortal anymore, and Zamasu's like, well, I know that. I just wanted Goku's body because of the fact that you surpassed the ki or the strength of the gods. I wanted that for myself. No, he didn't. He really just didn't want that, did he? He wanted to exterminate mortals for even looking at the gods in a different way. So them changing his not his ideals, but his goal slightly is a bit weird. But then again, the ideals of Black, when Goku Black, as well as Zamasu, because they're both Zamasu, but they're from different timelines, so they have different experiences, may do well to explain this tinkered version of his new goal about him wanting Goku's power. At the end of the day, it was all about Goku. But here's the thing, it wasn't about Goku. Heck, it wasn't even about Vegeta, because when Vegito unfused, firstly, the stupidity is once again countered with absolute brilliance, as we saw Zamasu clobber Goku and Vegeta, and the visuals, the way it was animated and drawn was just superb. Absolutely superb. Whilst that's happening, during the fight, we see Trunks and all the other onlookers, Mai, Bulma, looking on the fight between Zamasu as well as Vegetto, and Mai gives Trunks the broken sword and reminds him, hey listen, Haru and I forgot the other person's name, but the two kids, they really wanted you to have the sword, and it's a broken sword. It's an absolutely broken sword. And this is one thing which, although people may say, oh, it's a little cliche, it's so much like a shonen trope, friendship power, no, trust me, well, more on that later, but no, because the thing is, it was really well done how they showed the reflection of all the people he's fighting for, all the humans, because Trunks is representing the human race. He is representing his world. He is the last savior for his world, for his timeline. And what he does is he powers up with the power of his Super Saiyan as well as his other form, which we once again have no explanation or name for, and he what's the word? He makes up the rest of the sword, so he completes the sword with his own ki. So we see a hybrid of his sword, which in my opinion, it kind of personifies the struggle of humanity. A broken sword made of just standard metal, from all we know. It's a human creation, the metallic sword, but then it's completed with the ki, which could be from the strength he gained from his role of fighting for humanity, but it's a nice little touch they did right there. So this little ki sword, but he goes to join the fight, and when he joins the fight, he is the one to block Zamasu's ki blade with his own sword before he's about to finish off Goku and Vegeta. Now this is once again not stupid but absolutely brilliant. A sequence of events which followed were fantastic. Just like how I said 14 to 16, these few minutes were superb, and it's only Dragon Ball which makes me so conflicted. We saw a sword fight. The sword fight was so bloody well done, and the struggles we saw between this mutated Zamasu as well as Trunks, but at the same time you also wonder, how is Trunks keeping up? How is he even keeping up with this monster? At this moment he's like a giant version of himself, so giant mutated Zamasu. How is he keeping up? And this is when people who may criticize and say, oh, friendship power up, I also criticize this. Essentially, through the power of humanity, through the power of the people of his world, he gets their energy. The humans are, because they're relying on Trunks, subconsciously give their ki, give their energy, give their life energy, not life energy, but essentially a Genki Dama, essentially a spirit bomb, similar to Majin Buu, how they defeated Kid Buu through the spirit bomb, but no one told them to do it. No one gave them the cue, and that's fine. If it was just isolated or construed to just, oh, it's the humans who are in the vicinity and are that know of Trunks is fighting this massive struggle, I understand. But then we see Eita, we see all these people throughout the world giving their energy. How do they know? How are they aware that Trunks is fighting? Do they know of Goku Black's initial onslaught on humanity throughout the world? Because the rest of the world looks somewhat fine, but they're giving their energy to Trunks. And how are they informed? How are they informed? But okay, that aside, that's one stupid point countered with a brilliant point. The energy completes his sword, makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. And for you lot who watched Shaman King, it's a really big callback. Shaman King, we saw Amidomaru's sword, who Amidomaru is voiced by Sean Sherman, who also voices Goku, gets massive. But okay, less on that. But his sword gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it essentially becomes a spirit sword. It is the true personification of a spirit sword. Not the spirit bomb, but it's a spirit sword. He infuses the energy from the people of humanity alongside his own god ki, alongside his friendship power, his determination, his will to survive, his will to avenge all of his race and his timeline. And they're fighting Zamasu, and what does he do? He stabs Zamasu, and then this is brilliant. You see him stabbed and it's lunged into, let's say, the stomach area of Zamasu, and then he just scrapes it up, and you can hear the tearing of his limbs or his being. Zamasu's being is just being torn upwards, and then he's split into two. But here's the thing, his bottom half is intact, but just upwards is split into two, and the final image of Zamasu split into two before he is eradicated through Trunks' sword is a very, very, very strong image. So that is essentially how it ends, and the next episode preview, I will speak about that tomorrow in the video. I know this is a stupidly long video, but here's the stupid points. They don't explain a lot of things. It feels like, although Vegito was a very, very cool and nifty inclusion, he feels like he wasn't part of the original plan set by Toriyama, set by whoever wrote the guidelines, and someone thought in Toei that, hey, wouldn't it be cool to maybe add Vegito? And it was. We saw Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken make another return. Well, that's fine because they introduced that, but these all look like winks to the viewers through Toei, which I have no problem. Could they have maybe longed out for 1 or 2 more episodes? Was it rushed? To be honest, no, I don't think it was rushed with Vegito, because Vegito was not the centerpiece. It was all about Trunks, but then for Trunks to take the final victory right at the end. Remember when Goku defeated Kid Buu? They struggled for a long time. It wasn't just the last 5-10 minutes. So people may complain about the pacing, but to be honest, I don't really have too much of a gripe with the pacing. Hey, having Goku not be the final end all with the villain is kind of a breath of fresh air with Trunks, because it really does fit Trunks' character, his struggle, and props to Toei, props to Toriyama, who, you know, if that is the, and that probably is the way it's supposed to end, props. The arc ended really nicely in terms of this protagonist defeated this villain because essentially it's his problem, but the inclusion of all these fan service winks really do deter the whole, not continuity, but the way things flowed, the way things made sense. By trying to cram in all these things, it affected the way things should make sense, and that's my problem with this episode. And I am conflicted because of the fact that, as I stated before, and this is going to be essentially the whole catchphrase for this video, stupidity laced with brilliance. I don't know what to think. It wasn't the best episode, but it wasn't the worst. It wasn't a good episode because it was great, but it wasn't super wow because of the stupidity laced with brilliance. Anyway guys, I know this has been a very long review compared to what I usually do, but make sure to leave a like, share, comment, and you may now exit Dims's domain. Thank you and goodbye.